Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. Um, Kind of a bit of a somber day for so many reasons today. So I will throw on here what we'll be talking about today. We'll definitely take a minute for a somber moment of reflection. I'll let a few people get on and then I'll say my piece there. We'll talk about the CPI inflation data today and what that shows. Inflation heating up a little bit, however, came in as expected. No real bump on rate sheets, but we'll go into the details and the Fed rate predictions heading into 2026. I want to kind of go a little bit deeper. So, what are the expectations for the Fed rate cuts at this point? What effect will they likely have on mortgage rates and where things will go? So, we've got quite a bit to cover today. Again, a bit of a somber day, unfortunately. So many things in the world going on that are kind of messed up. But remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Appreciate you being with me. We broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube every weekday morning. I hope you'll join me. If you don't have time or you come in late or you're busy, you can always hop on the replay. Those videos will live up there for quite a while. You can watch them that day. And if you do me a favor, just put hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let Facebook and YouTube know that you were here. Love to hear your comments. One thing I'm proud to say is my friends all have very positive and good things to say. I didn't see any of the negativity on things. So always love to hear your comments. If you would like to be reminded that I'm going live each morning, you can sign up for a text alert. It's hmmr.io/reminder. We don't sell your information or use it for any nefarious purposes. I just send you a quick text and tell you, hey, I'm going live and you can join me, give you the links and just a quick reminder. So if you'd like to sign up for that, hmmr.io/reminder or use this cool QR code. Oh, here it is over here. And we can get you all signed up for that. So let me pop that out of the way. We'll go back here. See a lot of you joining me this morning. So again, this morning we're going to have a quick somber moment of reflection. So many things to kind of contemplate, if you will. CPI, we're going to go into the CPI data in a minute, and we'll talk about those Fed rate cuts. So, but first, let me say hi to all of you that are here this morning, all of my friends that do join me. So many of you join me each and every day, and I appreciate you for that. Tim Klyla, good morning, sir. Nicole Semerad, Holly Johnson, Megan Bissell, good morning, Yasmin Martin, Mike Morano. Mike, it is absolutely a sad day for America. So many reasons. We'll talk about that. Angela Walters, good morning. Mike Brown, Matt Rasner, Mike Tebow, Nathan Einkorn, good to see you, sir. Brandy Brickler, Tiffany Teal, Kalmazika, Stan Herbert, Almir Krivdik. So great to have all of you here. So I don't want to get too far in, but so many things to, be kind of take a moment on. Yesterday, yet another school violence incident involving a gun. Again, I don't want to get into the gun thing. We don't talk about that stuff or do that stuff here. There's no reason for a debate. Everyone's got their opinions. But one thing for sure is it's always frustrating to see that these things continue to happen. Of course, Charlie Kirk and that assassination, a very sad moment again. No matter if you agree or disagree with his views, I don't think there's anybody that we agree or disagree with 100%. But one thing I've always tried to do in our little world is just positive discourse, talking about things. And that's one thing that I will respect about the man was that he, even though I didn't agree with everything he said, he was very much about talking about it and wasn't trying to incite violence ever about that, which I respected. So it's very unfortunate to see that. And he leaves two small children and a young wife, a young widow. So that's it's always a terrible situation when we see a preventable death like that. So I know that hit many people hard. One thing I am proud to say is that I know there were comments made about people that were happy or cheering this thing. I didn't see any of that in my socials and my circle. And, even from friends I know that didn't agree with Charlie Kirk or might not have liked Charlie Kirk, but I never saw anybody celebrating it. So I know I'm surrounding myself with the right people, and I appreciate that. There was nobody I saw that I would have felt that I wouldn't have handled that very well. I don't think many of us do. I don't think anything like that should ever be cheered. And of course, today is 9/11, and It's been a long time. It's been a long time since 2001. So we're at 24 years now. And I don't know about y'all, but I was from the New York, New Jersey area. It's about 45 miles from where the crow flies, from the World Trade Center. I remember exactly where I was that day. I was doing a group interview. I worked for Electrolux as a branch manager. And we actually turned on the TV in the office and watched the towers fall. And I've visited the sites, including New York and Pennsylvania. Truly hats off to the people on that Pennsylvania flight that just weren't going down without a fight. So just a time for remembrance, a somber moment here. So anyway, we're going to move on. And again, I just want to kind of put that out there. It is a somber day today in the United States. And I think we need that for perspective, just to chat about it, not ignore it. Normally I kind of gloss over this stuff, but all right. So let's go ahead and get into where we're at today. So bonds approved early yesterday after some wholesale inflation data. Let me bring up the screen over here, and we will go over all of this real quick. Let me see entire screen. Here you go. Boom. All right. So taking a look here as I rub my nose, let me get rid of me. We don't need me in here. Okay. Oh, actually, but you know what? That bumps that up a little higher. Okay, cool. So taking a look here, let's go ahead and switch to yellow. Pricing came out right about here. Remember, we were down a little bit on the day. That wholesale inflation data, we got a bump, then it came down, and then it kind of came back up again. So overall, we were up a little bit. It helped recover from the day before. If you take a look at the 5-day, the day before we had lost ground. So we started out here, and obviously, as you can see, ended quite a bit lower. And then yesterday, that helped us to kind of rebound back up. We didn't keep it all. We ended the day right about here, still, a little bit below where we were when we were on Tuesday, but better than nothing, right? And then this morning, if we go ahead and go back to the 2-day here, we got the CPI inflation data as well as jobless claims. It came out at the same time. You'll see there was a big spike. The improvement was part relief rally that the CPI data came in as expected, mostly in line with estimates. As you see here, it says mostly in line with estimates, but also the jobless claims. Jobless claims jumped to the highest level in almost 4 years. That's, another sign of labor market weakness. They've kind of stacked up, and it's hard to argue that the labor market is not there. So this morning, mortgage-backed securities are up 3 basis points, 101.23. You can see here at the Japanese candlestick chart, that we are basically flat, right? So if I make this, we're kind of really flat at this point. You saw we went up here, we went up here, and now we're kind of flat. So let me pop this like this. So rate sheets are likely to tread water today. Using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. Let me just make this a little bit smaller so it fits on the screen. Let me pull this up. All right. So taking a look here, we've been kind of just sitting 6.29, 6.29. Wow, look at that, 6.28, and before that, 6.29. So today, you're very much at that same level, 6.29. There's really not much of a move, no change difference there. So like I said, that CPI inflation data came in as expected. If we dig a little deeper on that, then we go in the numbers. It was 2.9%. Do they have everything in a nice, let's go to the Wall Street Journal. They probably put it there. So consumer prices were up 2.9% in August, which is higher than the 2.7% in June. So we are seeing inflation tick a little bit higher, but that was what was expected. So there was really not any big reaction to that. That was kind of what it is. Now, the year-over-year reading was the highest since the start of 2025. We certainly don't want to see inflation move in the wrong direction, but it's not a brutal inflation. We're not seeing huge jumps on inflation. So, we don't have much to worry about there. So rates have been really solid. As far as reprice risk today, it's low. We've got another bond auction this afternoon, the 30-year bond auction, but it's not a market mover. There's really nothing that we have to worry about as far as that goes. Will Patterson has a comment here and said, I don't know where I heard it, but I heard in the last 2 days, tariffs are helping mortgage rates because companies involved in trade wars have stopped and slowed hiring. If not letting people go, it's causing confusion for these companies, thus costing jobs. I mean, you could argue that. I mean, by all means, it's certainly, there's a slowdown in jobs. But when you look at the change that we've seen in revised, job numbers for 2024, we were seeing a slowdown before the tariffs. I don't think the tariffs are necessarily can be credited with being a good thing. I'm not a big tariffs fan. So, but that could arguably, you're right, Will. We could see some of that on there as far as that goes. So, taking a look here, rate sheets are likely to keep treading water. So as I showed you here, we're at 6.29, 6.29, 6.28, 6.29, call it 6.25 and call it a day. And we're likely to see more of that as we head into next week. So next week on Wednesday, the 17th, we'll have the conclusion of the Fed meeting, and we will have Fed Chair Jerome Powell's press conference. And that's really, I don't think we're going to see much of a reaction. You'll see we might tick up to 6.31. We might tick down to 6.27. But really, I don't think you're going to see much movement in bonds or in 10-year Treasury yield. You can see the 10-year Treasury yield this morning. We are at 4.01. 4.01, really just holding above that 4% level. Could fall back into the threes, but even that, it is creeping a little bit lower, but not a lot. Enough, though, that I'll throw it out there. My lock advice would be to be floating almost all of your loans. Anything closing less than 15 days. We talked about locking ahead of the CPI data just in case we got a negative print and things really got ugly. Locking certainly didn't cost anything. I mean, we're only up 3 basis points. It's not like there was some amazing improvement and, now all of a sudden rate sheets are a quarter point better. We're not leaving anything on the table. If you locked, it helped you sleep at night, and we didn't see a big, strong reaction for it coming in as expected. Again, floating is great, but if we're not really expecting to see improvement, why go there? Now, it's really important that we take a look at some of the Fed futures at this point and kind of get an idea of where we're at and where things are going to go and the outlook. All right. So not likely to see any real movement ahead of next week's Fed meeting. Loans closing less than 15 days can decide if gambling into the Fed meeting. The rest should definitely float. So let's make this fit the screen. There we go. So taking a look here, less than a 10% expectation of a half point cut. Mike Morano yesterday said he didn't think we'd see a half point cut. I didn't know. Ron Siegel, are you on today? I haven't seen you, Ron. But we may not see this. But there is expected to see a quarter point cut, right? Between this, we're at 100% expectation we will see at least a quarter point cut. Very small outlier that we could see more than that at the September meeting. As we go into October, markets are expecting to see another quarter point cut in October. So markets are going to be looking for confirmation from Powell at next week's Fed meeting that we're going to see some continued rate cuts, right? And as we look into December, again, markets are now looking for, this was 3.5. This would be 3 times quarter point cuts. So markets not expecting a half point cut at all. This yellow is a little hard to read. Let's go to purple. 3 times quarter point cuts, right? So 0.25. That's what markets are currently pricing in right here. 3.5 is what's going on. But what I wanted to show you, take a look at kind of how that has changed. So a month ago, we were at a 42% expectation that we would be at 3.75. A week ago, it was 46%. And look at how we have seen in this time frame, we've seen this has dropped down, but this has gone up. So markets were pricing in 2 cuts here and now pricing in 3. 3 is the big expectation here. And if we start to go into, basically a year from now, let me see if I can make this a little bigger so we can kind of get this in here. All right. So I'm going to make this full screen so that you guys can get a real good view on this. Let me adjust this. Bear with me a minute. We're going to Oops, come on. Now where'd my thing go? Where'd you go? Here it is. Okay. All right. So, and let's make sure we're at 100%. All right. That's even better. So take a look here. We're going to start out with purple. Take a look at purple. This is a month ago. Look at this arc. Just give me a minute to do it slow so I can get this accurate, right? So this was the arc. That's 1 month. Now we'll switch to light blue. This was a week ago. Hold on, because it'll only work if I can draw these somewhat accurately. Okay. And then now we're going to switch to green and where we're at today. Okay. So look, what I want you to see here is purple was a month ago, right? So the expectation of where rates would be in September of 2026. Remember, this is 2026. This is September. This is September 2026. All right. So here, let me get this out of the way for now. All right. So this is September of 2026. And you can see, looking in September, this purple line, markets were pricing in the idea that we would be on the higher side of rates. And you can see that curve. It's totally, they're kind of hedging bets. But look at how that has fallen back and fallen back. So it went from 3.25 was kind of the top of that range. Maybe even we want to argue 3%, right? So 3% was like the top of that range here a month ago. And that kind of crept back. And look at, you can really see it right here. The expectation of if we would see a higher cut. Now, markets are believing that the Fed is going to have to really cut deep. And this is we're at 4.25 now. So you're talking about 1.5 points in rate cuts by this time next year in 2026. And markets are looking for signs that we're going to see that. So just the reason I'm bringing this up is we see the change in the initial in like expectation for what's going to happen in this month at this meeting. We see the change right here for the end of the year. You could see same thing. The expectation even a week ago was that 3.75 a week ago was almost neck and neck with whether we would see 2 or 3 rate cuts. And that's since now skyrocketed. Now the belief much lower here, much higher here. Markets are pricing in more of a rate cut. The reason I bring all this up is it's very unlikely that we're going to be in a position where you're going to see rates improve dramatically from here. We're getting near the best levels that we're going to see. We're getting near those points. So we want to try to get people to take action. Rates do have some room to improve. If we look at mortgage-backed securities, let's make this small and I'll show this on the screen again. All right. If we look at mortgage-backed securities and we go back a year, you could see where we were a year ago. It was all the way up here and we're right here. So there is a little bit of room to go. You're talking about over here, we were at a high of 101.50. That's only about 25 basis points. Now, we could go up those 25 basis points and see rates improve. Remember, when we look at where rates were at in September, if we get rid of all these other things and make this chart a little bit smaller so we can actually compare, not 21, that's still too far. But here you go. So come on, a little farther and get rid of that 5-year. Okay. So, here we were September of 24, and here we are September of 25. So there is definitely some room to fall lower. We could move down. It's about right here. So we could see rates come down to match that level. We could see it surpass that level. But realistically, what we're looking at for kind of a best case scenario are rates in the high 5s. You're seeing that right now for the govies, right? We'll see that for the govies, but because when we look over here, but notice the spread on govies not nearly as good as it was before. Before we saw 6 and oh, you're not seeing these. Hold on. Let me pull this over a little bit so you guys can get this. And this is normal. You're going to see this happen. You're going to see the spreads compress here. So here we were a month ago, 6 5/8 with a VA rate of 6.15, right? There's a half a point difference there. But yet now, here we are at 6.29. And instead of, the 6.15 is only 6. So you're seeing, more of a compression, a little bit better that day there, a little bit better. But overall, you'll see those FHA and VA rates in the high 5s, but not going significantly lower than that. And when conventional rates go higher, you can see as much as a half point spread between them, but it's lower now. It's only about a quarter point. So just be aware of all that. Like, just kind of watch all that. But Will said the revisions have been very telling. I've been saying for 2+ years, the job numbers have been cooked. Not a fan of the tariffs. Yeah, just something you heard. Yeah, I'm with you. And yeah, those revisions are absolutely outlandish. Mike said the number is a 12-month average. What number fell off? What are we talking about? Are we talking about for the CPI? Food and shelter prices show bigger gains. Impact from tariffs remains muted. Auto costs post big jump. So I don't know if that's what you're referencing. Good morning, James Mahan. So, all right. Well, there we go, everybody. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully that gives you some insight into where we're at. It should be basically like it says down below, and I'll throw it up on the screen again here. The overall outlook, it's not likely we're going to see any real movement ahead of next week. You see a little bit one way, a little bit another, but there's nothing that's going to drive anything before we get to next week's Fed meeting. Floating into the Fed meeting, we want to see, does Powell give more of a dovish tone, and how do markets react to what he does say? So but overall, it's unlikely that we see rates that are going to pound their way lower, but they definitely could move lower, an eighth, maybe a quarter, maybe into the high 5s for conventional. But again, that psychological trigger. Consumers are just looking for anything with a 5 handle. We're seeing the spike in activity when we get to something that could be in a 5 handle. And I wouldn't be afraid of using points to buy down right now, because unless we get into a true recession, the labor market really continues to weaken, and that'll take months and months. That's what we're going to need to see rates really, if they were going to go down much further than that. So this is probably going to give us a little bit of an opportunity. Make sure you're ready for it. And there you go. So anyway, kiss your loved ones, hug them tight, take a moment, just be grateful, appreciate what we have here. And hopefully as a society, we can move past some of the division and disagreement, and disagree without being disagreeable, right? So it's a lot of passion behind a lot of stuff, and they're good people with good opinions. And again, what's funny is mine are all over the board. Sometimes people think I'm pegged one way, and I probably should be more milquetoast with this stuff because, being in business, but I'm not, and I'm not really overly vocal about, I could lay it all out there as a checklist, but I'm kind of all over the board. I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not I'm me. And I've got my own beliefs, and I know y'all do too. And we should be able to have those beliefs. We should be able to talk about those beliefs and share those beliefs. And unfortunately, it's just a crazy world that we live in. So be smart and take care of yourself. So, there you go. All right, everybody, have a great one. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.